Have you been banned here recently, wrongfully? Turns out that actually may be the case for once. Bungie allegedly issued a ban wave against users who abuse NetLimiting. Now, what occurred on Twitter is that there were reports of bans flooding the internet. Today, guys, we're gonna deep dive into this because this is an interesting thing, and I actually learned something from this because I didn't even realize how common NetLimiting actually is. So first up, the name NetLimiting derives from the software NetLimiter. This software allows you to halt or slow certain types of internet traffic from your computer. And in the case of Destiny, it's used by cheaters to exploit the game to produce some wacky results without disconnecting from the game. The most common use for NetLimiting is to deal more damage against enemies. There was a glitch in the past that allowed you to duplicate orbs of light for infinite supers using a NetLimiter. Now, we're not going to pretend to know the mechanics of how you go about reducing your internet speed. What's the margin here to cause these effects? Can you just naturally get this on McDonald's Wi-Fi? I don't know. But most likely it creates a discrepancy between client-side and server-side info. Granted, we're not software engineers here. What we do know is that it is still cheating. And we recently made a video discussing Zim and Cronus, devices that we consider to be cheating, as it does give you an advantage in-game. And if you want to check out our whole breakdown of that one, feel free. And the defense behind this is the same here with NetLimiting, is that it doesn't actually hack the game files. So therefore, it's not actually cheating. But it is though, as it gives the perpetrator an unfair advantage. Now, I don't know if you know this by now. I am like the lead prosecutor of cheaters inside of Destiny. I take this stuff very personally. I will go out of my way. I will halt Sunday service to stop and fuck up a cheater. Now, the term I think many of us are more familiar with here is, of course, lag switching. This was actually a very common practice in PvP back in the day, especially in Destiny 1. You could use a lag switch to drop your connection, creating hell for any players that you were fighting against, constantly teleport across the map, and kill your opponents before they can even react. The thing about lag switching, though, was that it was so obvious. This NetLimiting thing, this is not as obvious. Now, why are we talking about this? The reason why this has become a hot topic in the Destiny community recently, and the alleged purpose for the ban waves, is the King's Fall raid. Yes, PvE of all things. There was very clear evidence surfaced of day one runs that were called into question or straight up disqualified due to NetLimiting. Reports surfaced as early as September 26 of accounts being banned due to NetLimiting. And even more bans have since been issued over the past week, with many taking to social media to complain about getting banned. Now, we have no idea how Bungie went about dishing out these bans. There's even a case of one YouTuber who actually makes NetLimiter tutorials claiming their accounts wasn't banned, which calls into question the legitimacy of the entire NetLimiting detection process. A lot of the controversy surrounding this decision revolves around supposedly innocent players getting caught in the crossfire. It's not like the first time we've seen this before. I shit you not, we have seen cheaters say, "I'm not cheating, I'm just using wall hacks." What? But in this situation, many people claim to have been wrongfully banned from the game, adding the CMs to lift the bans from their accounts. One of the people innocently banned was the developer of the website D2 Gunsmith, who goes by Dre on Twitter. He claims that he had no idea for the reason for the ban, speculating internet issues with his ISP, which may have been the reason. And despite not appealing, he was almost immediately unbanned just 2 days later. All's well that ends well, right? No. He has made clear since the ban that he will no longer be updating the D2 Gunsmith website and that he is done with Destiny for the time being. I think it's fairly obvious to say this is a huge loss. Not only is D2 Gunsmith a great website, but it also is one of the few sites that did not run ads, and that is by no means easy. Imagine spending countless hours testing, collecting in-game data, designing an entire website practically for free, only to at the drop of a hat have your account banned. That must feel like a slap to the face. Now, granted, we've also run into some issues in the past when we've had false copyright strikes that was sent out to many YouTubers, us included, and that was due to a fraudulent actor, which we will not name because I don't want to be dragged into litigation, but it's probably going to happen inevitably. But we did come close to losing our YouTube channel for literally nothing we did wrong. Granted, the strikes have since been repealed, but we were one strike away from having our channel deleted. So I've been on the end of being boned despite my innocence. But at the same time, who can you trust? Y'all remember Bakken? Turns out that guy was actually cheating. And there were people for weeks defending this man, saying, "Oh, he's not cheating. He's a swell guy. I had him over at Christmas." And then boom, turns out the man actually was, which honestly resulted in everybody in the Destiny community literally drawing on each other. Nobody trusted nobody. Now, we did reach out to one of the assistant developers of the site of D2 Gunsmith, and this is what he had to say. Since it happened, the ban, we've barely talked. I could tell you before the ban and unban, we had plans to expand the website in terms of damage drop-off stuff, which is what I helped him with. We wanted to add drop-off curves between drop-off start and end to check damage at those points. He also wanted to add TTK calculators for different archetypes. He already shipped an early version for 140 round per minute hand cannons, so all of this came as a surprise. Dre's a nice guy that has made one of the biggest gaming-related websites on the internet with no ads. I can't imagine the pressure he's been through all this time. As for the future, I know as much as you guys do. As of the time of writing, Destiny 2 Gunsmith is still online, and hopefully it remains that way. But as time goes on, it will become inaccurate if no updates are made, potentially making it an unreliable resource even as early as next season. Hopefully Dre is able to enjoy enjoy his time away from the site and the game for the time being. Will he ever return to continue development? Who knows? What is certain though is that D2 Gunsmith is a phenomenal resource for both new and veteran players, and it would be a real shame to lose it. And if anything, maybe he wants an open apology from Bungie or a CM, or maybe even a notation in the TWAB. I don't know. It's a double-edged sword because Bakken also was like, yo, Bungie, why'd you ban me? And then Bungie was like, cause you're cheating. Again, I love D2 Gunsmith. I don't know Dre personally. Do I know if he's cheating or not? No. Am I gonna say he's innocent? Well, I do have to kind of like ask, what would his reason for cheating even be, right? Most people in the game that are cheating, they have a reason behind it. It's normally related to day one raids, or it's trying to get flawless or get some sort of competitive advantage for a reason. Dre just seemed like a normal player of the game who went above and beyond helping the community out with this external website. Now, Dre isn't the only individual who was unbanned this weekend. Multiple other people have also had bans lifted from their accounts following Twitter posts and appeals. And as of October the 1st, we do have a statement from Bungie regarding these massive ban waves. One of the community managers replied to a comment about the ban waves and stated, ban appeals is not our role. Me saying anything is pretty toe-steppy of me. When the communication is finalized from each team is when we can relay it. We are a mouthpiece. We aren't the speaker. And regarding the claims of unjustified bans, there has been communication to the players, BitAll claiming false bans are being honest, and the rare time where it is false, that team has those discussions with the player, never public, for privacy and legal reasons. That's everywhere, not Bungie. Honestly, don't expect the CMs to be able to address these issues. I mean, you can't go through a public appeal process. It's just not gonna happen. And listen, I've been banned before in other games. I mean, RuneScape was the first game I ever got banned in. It wasn't the most egregious thing, but I did run around saying some pretty profane things, like F your mama, F your grandmama, an assortment of other bad words. I was a 13, 14-year-old kid that got access to a keyboard. It was way too much power for me to manage, but I did get banned, and the unban or the appeal process takes place behind closed doors. But what this does do is this does shed a light on this entire issue. While not everyone may agree, obviously there are conversations that take place behind closed doors in regards to these appeals, and there are several people claiming that their bans were unjustified, and they have since had their access to Destiny reinstated. Now, I will say this, it shouldn't have ever happened in the first place, but mistakes do happen. And we're talking about getting rid of many bad actors in the community, then ultimately there is some good that is coming of this. In fact, I am so happy that more cheaters are getting their just desserts. So if we want to start pointing fingers at the problem, let's all point them at the people who are making the game worse for the rest of us. Do not lose sight of why this is happening in the first place. Now, could Bungie handle bans better? Sure. I mean, I haven't exactly gone through the ban or appeal process with Bungie, but I will say an issue with the current ban system is you don't really know why you were banned. So it's hard to defend yourself if you're innocent. You're kind of playing the guessing game. You're like, yo, what did I do? Did I take my pants off last night in game? Did I do the helicopter for too long at the tower? Or was it because I had perfect aim on my system this entire time? Which one is it? Inside of RuneScape, you actually got the reason for your ban. It actually will be like, yo, you said these words at this time to this girl. Aztecross, you got way too sexual way too quickly. And then it turned out she wasn't even a girl. It was a good lesson to learn early. I haven't trusted the internet since. But if Bungie actually gave a reason for the ban, along with some proof too, if they can actually provide that of like when it actually happened, the date that the transgression actually occurred, that would be good because it would allow the people that are innocent to defend themselves. Now, we have multiple categories currently in game to report people. So if we can just add those to the actual dishing out of punishment, then it would be much easier to identify those who are blamed cheaters claiming that they are innocent versus those who are banned for poor internet connection. What I will say is this, net limiting is becoming more and more of a problem, and I didn't realize how big of an issue it actually was. Again, I'm used to lag switching. I'm used to seeing people glitch all around the map, and it would be super noticeable who was cheating and who wasn't. But net limiting is subtle. It's subtle little manipulations in your connections that will give you an advantage. And a lot of times you may jump up and say, oh, Bungie's servers are terrible. That's why. But in fact, it's someone tampering and manipulating their connections. And what's crazy is that this is happening in both PvE and inside of PvP. This does bring up the question, who naturally got through day one raids, especially with the most recent Kingsfall raid? And I know Bungie really takes this seriously, especially considering it involves PvE. I feel like for PvP, Bungie's like, oh, we'll get to it when we get to it. But now that this is an issue in PvE, oh boy, because you got to understand, let's just say, and this would be outrageous, but let's say 50% of the Destiny day one players for a raid were cheating. Well, what's going to happen? Bungie's going to make the next raid harder, right? Because they want to actually keep a certain threshold of success amongst players attempting to get the day one raid. And don't let them kid you, there is a number, a percentage that Bungie likes to keep things in between. And you saw even after like the Deepstone Crypt, Bungie came out and was like, yo, this raid was way too easy. We got to up the difficulty. And you saw the other side, Last Wish raid, when Bungie went way too hard. The problem is if there is an influx of cheaters participating in day one raids, then that's going to contribute to that percentage, thus resulting in future raids becoming more and more hard. And even though I do like harder, always harder, in this case. The hardness here would be unjustified, and that would just be flat out wrong. Either way it goes, guys, if you have been banned this past weekend wrongfully, feel free to sound off in the comments below and let us know if you actually got unbanned or not. And I do wonder how Bungie is detecting this. I will say, for Bungie's sake, maybe in this week's swap, take a minute to just explain how you go about the process of identifying who is net limiting and who isn't. How do you differentiate between bad connections and net limiting? And I know some of you are going to draw the conclusion, Cross, wouldn't that just give the people who's actually net limiting a way to maneuver around these issues? Yeah, that's true, guys. I mean, it really does. It kind of gives you the keys to the gate there on how to get through that. The other side of things is that it might be time to get better internet. And I know some of you don't have that option. You live in the middle of nowhere. Listen, I'm from Louisiana. Internet was terrible. You may have Xfinity. I can't stand Xfinity. But I will say this, even as someone who came from Louisiana, who had some of the worst internet packages known to man, I'm talking just a couple years ago, I had internet packages that were hot back in 1998. It was terrible. And I still played Destiny, and I still never got banned. Now, granted, perhaps Bungie has something today that would pick up on my poor internet connection and would smite me. With that being said, though, it's good that these appeals are occurring and people that were wrongfully banned are able to return to the game. Hopefully, Dre will continue updating D2 Gunsmith after he takes a break. I completely understand if he's frustrated. And if you are out there and you are net limiting, I hope you get a really bad case of hemorrhoids. I mean, the worst. I'm talking both painful and itchy, all at the same time. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.